All right, nerds, we have another episode of That Just Happened. This is the review show for lazy people, as it were. Today's episode is Frankie Freako speaks no evil to cold skin in the Black Mirror. That was long, I'm sorry. All right, so we have a lot of music to talk about this week, and I'm excited about it. All right, just the list real quick of the bands that we're talking about. We have Hunt the Dinosaur, Avatar, Killer's Confession, Psycho Frame, Converge, Black Braid, and Slaughter to Prevail have all released some sort of new music this week, and we're talking about every one of them maybe. So, first up, Hunt the Dino. The name of the song is Neptune's Spear. This is different as far as vocal delivery goes for Hunt the Dinosaur. It's still very much deathcore. It's just a little bit more deathcore. We get what we're expecting vocally to a certain degree with that rapid fire kind of hip hop delivery, and then also leans into the deathcore stuff. So if you are not a fan of Hunt the Dinosaur, but you like aggressive music, you really should check these guys out. This is honestly a good introduction to their sound. If you start here and work your way backwards, you're gonna see a bit of a shift. I'm really a big fan of their last record. I'm super stoked that they're still working on new music. I want to see what they do with this new guitar player. This so far has been A+ in my book. I'm hyped for it. If you like deathcore, check out Hunt the Dinosaur. Let's now move over to Avatar. New track called Captain Goat. This one's Meditation on Satan, I think is what they said in an interview. I don't necessarily, I kind of get that, I guess. You listen to the lyrics, like, it's definitely in there, but I don't know, it seems a little thin. But as far as like the new direction for their sound, this is kind of what I was anticipating when we talked about this last time, when they announced they were taking their sound in a new direction that was going to expand and challenge, etc., etc. The last time they said stuff like that, we got Avatar Country. So this seems to be slightly in the vein of Avatar Country. A little bit more focused, a little bit more metal than Avatar Country was, but still that same kind of experimentation vibe. Just a little less goofy and a little more, we're legitimately trying to be artists. And I can totally get into that. We'll see on the next single how that evolution, because I'm sure we're gonna get at least one more single before the record drops. So once the next single is released, I'll probably have a little bit more to say about this new direction. As it stands right now, it's fine. If you're a fan of Avatar, you're gonna dig this. If you're a fan of radio rocky, kind of not difficult to digest heavy, then Avatar's right up your alley. This song is no different. Not the best example of their best work though. So take with that what you will. Next up, we have the new track from A Killer's Confession. It is called Hollow. This is the first track off of their next record, Victim 2. This feels less like a Mushroomhead track than we have received from these guys previously. Not that everything they do, just because Waylon was in Mushroomhead, sounds like Mushroomhead. That's not the case, but there is definitely elements of that. This song, far less of those elements exist. We even have, in the video, we see that Stitch is seemingly actively a part of this band now, and the two ex-Mushroomhead members together still are not making something that sounds like their era of Mushroomhead. So I'm totally here for it. This is not what I was expecting in a lot of ways, and in a lot of good ways too. I am really liking this direction that they're taking their sound in. I want to see them do well. This is a fantastic example of the stuff that they're bringing to the table, so go check this out if you like new metal. It's not overly heavy, but there are heavy elements to it. It's definitely not like overly sing-songy, though there are sing-songy elements to it. So yeah, I'm here for it. Next up, in a very different direction of heavy, we have Psycho Frame. Their new track is called Blueprints for Idle Genocide. The most recent track from their upcoming release, because the last song we talked about of theirs was also off this. The upcoming release is, what the hell was the name of it? The Salvation Laughs in the Face of a Grieving Mother, because these guys are dark. This is like, these are the guttural kings. I don't know how else to describe this sound. It is pure deathcore. It is like you take all of the thrashy speed elements of the core genres, and then you throw the most guttural pig sound stuff over the top of it as far as vocals go, and then just crank the heavy to 15. Like, this is a band that is not for the light constitutions, if you will. These guys are not messing around. This is borderline like death metal, deathcore. Just vocally, there's a straight pummel, like they're just beating you over the head with this sound. And if you're not ready for it, it's a lot to process. So that is your warning, but it is also a heavy recommend from me because, oh man, it was so thick and juicy and just, yeah, let's go. All right, so next up we have the new Converge track. The name of this one is We Were Never the Same. I don't know how I feel about this. I need to listen to it a couple more times. Like, I've listened to it twice and it still just doesn't really process as a Converge track. Like, Jacob's vocals are always going to be Jacob's vocals. You are never going to not recognize Jacob Bannon on vocals. He is just one of the most distinct extreme vocalists out there. As far as the actual instrumentation and orchestration of this track, this feels far too simple for a Converge track. This is not the Converge that I fell in love with. This is still identifiable as Converge, so it's not a complete departure, but it seems like the entire thing, there's no experimentation, there's no goofy passages where we go into like 7/9 time signatures and we're not doing anything crazy layering. It's the Converge version of a rock and roll tune, I think, is the best way to describe it. Not that I'm against that, it's just not exactly what I was expecting. Still a solid track from as much as we can hear off these bootlegs. The link that you're going to follow in the description is going to take you to a bootleg, so just kind of keep that in mind. Again, I feel like I have to listen to this a couple more times. Usually that's the way it goes with Converge's new music. I have to kind of process for a while before I really can fully appreciate, and I think that's where we're at with this one. But either way, at least a minor recommend. Speaking of rock and roll version of the thing we expected, we got the new Black Braid track. The name of the song is War Drums at Dawn on the Day of My Death, because he loves those long, very epic song titles. Black Braid, this is the first track off the new record, 3. This is very much still Black Braid, like easily identifiable as Black Braid, easily identifiable as black metal. Just, I feel like we're changing black metal subgenres here. Previously, what we got was kind of more atmospheric stuff. We have, I mean, those long, what was the 13-minute long track, the first single that they released, made its way up to like number 3 on the top 10, or the top 12 rather, on Liquid Metal, which is crazy to me that this atmospheric black metal 13-minute track made it up to the top 3. But like, this kind of ditches a lot of that atmosphere for a much more in-your-face rock and roll version of what we know to be Black Braid. I feel like this is a much more appropriate adaptation of that rock and roll sound than the Converge track we just talked about, just because black metal, kind of, depending on which band you're listening to, there are some permutations of black metal that are just fast and dark rock and roll to a large degree. So for him to incorporate those elements makes sense. For Converge to incorporate those elements feels out of place. Does that make sense? But yeah, it's rockin'. This is very, very much a black metal track. Although, it could be argued, maybe not, because the production value is freaking top notch, as is all of the Black Braid material. So like, that was to be expected as well. Solid track from a solid dude. Absolutely recommend the new Black Braid track. Next up, and finally for the new music for this week, is Slaughter to Prevail and Baby Metal have released their collaboration called Song 3. And I think this is what I needed to have some sort of appreciation for Baby Metal. I don't know, it's the orchestration of Jack and the rest of the band behind Alex that is Slaughter to Prevail. Maybe that's what makes basically anything work over the top of it, because I really feel like this works better, for me at least, and I know there's hardcore Baby Metal fans out there that really, really love that sound, and it's just not something that I can dig. But when you put the instrumentation as Slaughter to Prevail behind that vocal sound that Baby Metal does. I'm here for it, apparently. This is a lot of fun. This track was, I have no idea what the hell anybody's saying, because I'm pretty sure Alex is singing at least largely in Russian, and then the Baby Metal girls are singing in Japanese because they are Japanese. So like, I don't speak either of those languages, but it's still, I'm here for the delivery of those words in whatever home language they're singing in. And also the performance of this song is still insanely crushing. And I, again, shows you my ignorance on the band Baby Metal. I did not know one of those girls did gutturals. She has some false chord stuff in there. Like, there's definitely some screamy stuff from these little Japanese girls. So I'm sure, it's not quite, I still don't have the same reverence for them as really any of the other Japanese bands. Like, I think Hanabiye is a more talented band than Baby Metal. That's just my opinion. But also, of course, Maximum the Hormone is the best thing to come out of Japan as far as music goes, and in my, again, very ignorant opinion. So yeah, Slaughter to Prevail, Baby Metal, Song 3. Recommend for sure. It's a hell of a time, but like, does this change how I think of either of those bands? Not really. I think it speaks more to the fact that I'm really big fan of Slaughter to Prevail, that they can elevate the sound of anybody who collabs with them. So there is that. That is what we have for new music that we're talking about, the things that happened for me this week. Let's talk now about the other things that happened. We're going to talk, we have the TV stuff, we have a few movies, none of which are anything that we put on our docket from last week. I still haven't watched Isekai, the last 4 episodes of Isekai. Still haven't finished. I just realized this as I was doing the research for this episode. I still haven't finished the Goosebumps, the newest season of Goosebumps. We started talking about that, and then I'm 4 episodes in and stopped watching. Not necessarily because it's bad, but we'll get to that when we get to that. So first up is a movie. This one it's a Lovecraftian movie. It's found by my girlfriend because she loves that kind of stuff probably more than I do, which is awesome. We have Cold Skin is the name of this. It's Lovecraftian in theme. It is not based on a Lovecraft story or novel or anything like that. The book that it is based on is a 2002 novel by the same name. The author of that is Albert Sánchez Piñol. He's Spanish, from Spain, Spanish. And the movie was originally released in Spain in 2017 and then in the US in 2018. It is currently streaming on Tubi, which is where I watched it, for free, because Tubi is free. And I know I prefaced this saying that it is a Lovecraftian movie. Well, that has certain connotations that I think don't necessarily apply to this, even though technically that is accurate. But Lovecraft did a lot more than the Eldritch Terrors and a lot more than the body horror that we see in Color Out of Space or something like the Cthulhu stuff. He also wrote stories about these sea people, these creatures from the sea. And that's where this one lies. We don't get a lot of that stuff, or like there's no other dimensional things or anything like that, which is also a Lovecraftian trait. This is only because of the nature of these sea creatures in this story. I think a really hard defining thing about this that would not be in a Lovecraft story, because if you take this one element out, it's very much that kind of Lovecraftian story. But there is this one element that you will never find in a Lovecraft story, and it's one of the characters has one of the sea creatures as a slave, and as a slave who does adult things with him, which you kind of, that's like a reveal, so I'm ruining part of the reveal, but like you see it coming, so whatever. But like, you would never see that. The creatures in a Lovecraftian story don't have that kind of softness about them, don't have that kind of weakness about them to be captured as slaves from the Lovecraft that I've read. They're all very much frightening, larger than man creatures. So yeah, kind of Lovecraftian in a very loose sense, but still has that element of fear. And this also has, oh, I didn't write his name down. Oh no, yeah, no, I totally didn't write his name down. He's the actor in Ahsoka. He was the Sith guy. Oh, I can't even remember the character that he played. He's the one that passed. He's the only part of Ahsoka, the Sith, on the Sith side of things, that was really motivating to watch that show. And then he passed, and now he's being replaced with the Hound actor. It's that guy. He's in this movie. He's the only one you're really probably going to recognize. Maybe some of these other people you'll recognize from other things if you watch a lot of movies and a lot of small budget independent films and things. But like, he's the biggest name in this. And Ray Stevenson, is that his name? I think that's his name. Anyway, he's fantastic. Might be not the best descriptor. He's kind of the best element as far as acting is concerned in this movie. Very much vanishes into the role. But I feel like if we're grading these things, we can put this one as a solid C+, B-. Like, there's a lot of great ideas and high concepts in here that really would have worked in more capable hands, I guess. There's a smattering of CG elements in here that are executed fairly well, so like that's not exactly the budget constraints here, but I think maybe some of the actors could have been better if there were more capable names in those roles. There's really primarily only 3 characters in this movie by and large. It's the female creature that is being held. There's the character that is holding the female creature as a slave. He works the lighthouse, and then there's the weatherologist, effectively. He's there to note the weather because it's Edwardian in time, so it's set back many years ago, and he's there to observe the weather. That's effectively why he's there. He's a scientist observing weather, and I think maybe it's really hard to pin down because they are all fine performances. I think maybe a good chunk of this is lost in the writing. Some of it is also very likely lost in the direction. Like you don't really identify with anyone in here, because except for, I don't know, maybe the protagonist, the weather guy, is who we're supposed to identify with the most, and yeah, there's a little bit of that there, but it all falls short. Like it all just leaves you like you're intrigued by these concepts, but then when we come to them in execution, like they just leave you wanting, and there's no real catharsis. It just feels off. And then we get to the end, and it's a cycle, which again is a really cool concept, but in execution just doesn't pay off the way you expect it to. So Cold Skin, if you like Lovecraftian stuff and you're not paying super close attention to the details, you're gonna dig it. If you like Edwardian horror, like there's a good element of that as well. It's just a different kind of horror. That's also something that's working for its favor. It feels like there's a couple of things missing or could have been done better. Like it's really hard to pin down. So let's move on from Cold Skin. Let's talk about Frankie Freako. This is something we talked about when it was originally announced as being released. I'm pretty sure that the release trailer is what we talked about on the main show. So I was kind of hyped for it because the way it was billed is basically Beetlejuice meets the Muppets in hell. And you kind of get a little bit of all 3 of those. This is going to be a running theme maybe, but doesn't really execute on any of them well at all. So it's an R-rated horror comedy that has come out in the last year. So there are kind of expectations with those quantifiers, right? R-rated horror comedy. Horror, gore, maybe some foul language, like just generally like there's connotations that come with the R-rated horror, right? And then you throw comedy in there and you're expecting like dick and fart jokes and dark humor maybe even, but we don't really come through on any of that. There is a bit of gore. There's some bloody scenes in here. There's some interesting kills-ish. By and large, though, it's just destructive. And like honestly, the funniest kill, quote unquote, it's not even really a kill. One of the characters gets covered in like industrial adhesive. He's still talking, still breathing, like doesn't die, but like the manner in which he gets covered with this is kind of funny. Beyond that, though, it feels like those 3 quantifiers, R-rated horror comedy, filtered through a Tim and Eric skit. So like there's that kind of awkward humor, which would be fine if they went all the way with it. And that's the big thing with Frankie Freako, is they don't go all the way with anything. They play everything super safe. I'm sure some of that has to do with the budget constraints. Also, some of that has to do with the fact that the director, this is the directorial debut of the director. He's also the producer. This is a very low budget movie. Streaming on Shudder, so if you're interested, buy at least the bit of it. But I'm gonna say probably steer clear. As much as we were hyped for this movie when it was originally announced, I can't say they followed through on any of the hype. Next up, we have the new James McAvoy movie that is now on Amazon Prime. It is called Speak No Evil, another horror. This one pays off much better, though this is an adaptation of original Dutch movie. Dutch movie ends fairly dramatically different than the American version, and the original Dutch director has definitely complained about that very publicly because he doesn't understand why Americans have to play everything so safe. And either do I. I feel like if they would have stuck the original Dutch ending onto this, it would have maybe felt more cathartic by the end of it. You would it's a much more depressing way to end this, because the American ending is much more, yes, we win the day and we'll continue to fight and go on and we did the right thing and the good guys win. And the Dutch ending is the bad guys win and the world is bleak and everyone's gonna get me. So like a little bit of a different theme by the end of it. I think McAvoy is captivating. I think that the man on screen, regardless of what role he's in, regardless of what movie he's in, he's been in some stinkers, and he has in some instances pulled it out. Like, he's the reason why the movie worked at all, because every other element of the movie, specifically I'm thinking of Split, every other element of the movie was subpar to say the least, whereas his performance was just so invigorating. Like, yeah, that I will watch Split again because James McAvoy is amazing. I might even watch Speak No Evil again because James McAvoy is amazing. It's really hard to watch him in this though, because you know where it's going as soon as the movie starts. Like, that's not really the surprise, but like to see the evolution of his performance from trying to put on the front as the good guy to then the reveal of him being horrible. Like, that is a difficult thing to watch. It is uncomfortable, but that is on purpose, and McAvoy freaking nails it. So, by and large, I don't think he is the salvation of this movie. I don't think there is salvation for this movie, just because, again, they played the ending too safe. There's a lot more room where they could have expanded on the Dutch movie. They could have taken it to a different level, and they just didn't. They played it beat for beat for beat until the ending, when they decided to not even like finish the rhythm. Like, that just, there's a little bit of disappointment here outside of McAvoy's performance, and that's kind of where we got to leave that one. And then let's talk, where are we going? Oh yeah, Black Mirror, and then that's the end of this episode. Black Mirror episodes 1 and 3, because those are the only ones that I've watched so far. Episode 1 is quintessential. It is absolutely the Black Mirror that we wanted out of season 3 that we didn't really get, save for that one episode. That is our one episode in season 4. Right? 4 is where we're at. In season 6, what we wanted that we didn't get, that we finally get in season 7. That's where we're at. Sorry. So episode 1 is everything about Black Mirror that you love. All of the future, like the near future issues that prophetic. Just like, yes, I can see this becoming an actual issue in the technologies that we have. Something along these lines is bound to happen. You can say that about some of the best Black Mirror episodes, and a lot of those things have actually started to come to fruition throughout the course of the existence of this show. This first episode is that. That is the freaking payoff for this. And then you have those other Black Mirror episodes where it's just like fun to play around with science fiction conventions, and conventions being like elements of storytelling, not like going to a convention event. Anyway, and that's what we get in episode 3. So the first episode, I can't remember the name of it, and I don't think I wrote down either of their names, and I'm a dumbass. Oh yes, I wrote down episode 3's name. Hotel Reverie is episode 3. Oh, a little heavy-handed, a little bit playing too much to the woke folk, and not enough focus on storytelling. There are some really cool ideas in there. I really dug again, we get this like almost cyberpunk near future fiction kind of thing, and I think that is incredible. I think that aside from this is the episode with the crazy lesbian thing, aside from the crazy lesbian thing, because that is what it is, and who really cares at this point, because we know that that's just incapable storytellers covering up for the fact that they're incapable. However, Charlie Booker is a capable storyteller, so that's what makes this even more egregious, because this episode, the conflict is predicated on something that is not how the things will evolve. And it's how to say this without being too spoilery. Basically, it has to do with AI. And one of these AI characters is based on a real person who was alive at one point, and so they created her after the death of this character, because there was an actor in the black and white era, and she put so much of herself in her performances. When somebody accidentally refers to her, the character, as the actress's name, it changes her like that's not how that works. That's not how that will ever work. That is not the line. So like, again, Booker, while largely prophetic, sometimes is playing to the wrong audience, because the people who would appreciate the cover that makes this episode function effectively, and not all of the details and the underlying elements that are the actual reason why people watch this show, people who would appreciate just the cover element, the big lesbian issue, they're not watching this show. So he's not playing to his audience. He's playing to some imaginary audience who doesn't actually care about the content. They just want the equality. So, like, again, some of the themes, some of the concepts in here are great. I think that if he had maybe let this one cook for another week before he finalized the script, he could have come up with something fantastic and far more motivating. But here we are, and there it is. So that is what we have this week. On the docket for next week, I have at least one movie, Into the Void of Night, or The Void of Night, I think is the name of it. Not Into, but The Void of Night. And then we have Love, Death, and Robots is on the docket. I've actually already watched a couple of those episodes, but I want to save that for when I have finished the whole season. And that will be by next week for sure. So we'll talk about that. Actually, we're not going to have an episode of That Just Happened next week, because things are going to be really weird next week. So next week, no episode of That Just Happened, but in the next episode of That Just Happened, we'll be talking about those things. I want to pass this off to you nerds. What happened for you? What movies did you watch? New music have you listened to? I found some other new music that we're probably going to be talking about in the next episode as well. So there's that. There's just a lot of stuff on the plates, man. So let me know what happened for you. Did you go to a concert? Let's talk about some live music. We talked about that. I talked about that in the last episode. So, all right, that's where we're ending. I'm sorry, I keep rambling. We'll cut it off there. Thank you very much for sticking around. If you have stuck this far, then you absolutely must care about the things I have to say, and I appreciate you for that. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share the show with everyone you know, because that is literally the only way that things like this grow. So, do the things. I love your faces. We'll see you in the next one. Before we go, always remember that if it's generally nerdy, it's probably here, and that just happened.